Please take your seats. Can we close the doors? Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a refreshing break. It is time now for us to move into our main panel. The future is digital. Will it be inclusive for girls and women? This session brings us directly to a central question of today's discussion. While there is a broad consensus that the future is digital, the more complex and consequential question remains whether this future will be genuinely inclusive. Beyond that, it invites us to reflect on who shapes this process, who participates in decision-making, and what gaps still persist. These are not simple questions, nor that should be. Their complexity reflects the realities of digital transformation and the challenges for ensuring equitable participation. I'm pleased today to be joined by a distinguished group of panelists representing perspectives from policy, industry, academia, and international organizations. Bringing these different viewpoints together allow us to move beyond general statements and engage in a more substantive and reflective discussion. Allow me to briefly introduce and invite my panelists. Ms. Irena Malode, Director at the Ministry of Infrastructure and Energy. Ms. Mirela Archimandriti, Gender Analyst and Director of Gender Alliance for Development Center. Dr. Mariana Scanduli, Assistant Professor at University of New York, Tirana, founder of AI Albania. Last but not least, Mr. Michele Ribota, United Nations Women Representative to Albania. Hey, what a pleasure to be here with such an outstanding panel. Thank you all for being here and being here with us. In this discussion, I would like us to explore what a truly inclusive digital future looks like for girls and women, moving beyond access and into meaningful participation and real influence. I'm particularly interested in your perspectives on the importance of women's representation in emerging fields such as cybersecurity and advanced technologies, where the rules of the future are being defined today. I would like us to move beyond inclusion as a concept and speak more concretely about impact, what it looks like in practice, and how it can actually be measured. So, let me start with something simple, and I will ask each of you to keep it brief. In your view, what does an inclusive digital future actually look like for girls beyond just access? You can start. Whoever wants. Can you press the button?
Okay. Hi, everyone. A hall full of girls. I'm so happy that you are here, and I hope this will be really inspiring, the entire conference and everything that you will do in your life, because it's the beginning of your life, and I hope that it will be inclusive all the time, that you will do step by step. But in inclusive digital future for girls and women means belonging, not only log in. And the future digital for girls and women should be a space free from harassment and a space for their growing up.
Thank you, Miss. Any other idea?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you for the invitation, and it's a great pleasure to be today here in front of so many inspiring and very ambitious and promising young girls and well-established professionals and women in the different fields. As to the question, I would say that we spend so many time and so many efforts to have a seat in the table. And whether there is or not the question of should we be invited in the table or should we fight for a place in the table, I think that we're there. We're already there. We have so many great role models in Albania and beyond that. And this is a very important momentum in the history because of technological transformation, because of many women that made actually this happen. So we have to redefine totally our role in the society as to women and girls that are not fighting for a place in the table because we already have it. We don't have to prove it. We don't have to validate ourselves. But instead, we have to act upon the role and act and use all these opportunities and become those that will not fight, will not ask for validation, but those that really make decisions and drive transformation. So that's how I see equality and digital transformation and the women in that sort of crossroad.
Thank you. Thank you. That's interesting. We are hearing different perspectives, but also a common thread. Already we are seeing that inclusion goes far beyond connectivity. But if we know what the future should look like, the real question is what is holding us back. So let me take this one step further. And I would like to bring Mr. Ribota's thought on this. From a policy and institutional perspective, what are the biggest gaps today in ensuring that girls are not just included, but truly empowered in ICT? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Good morning, everyone. Very happy to be here. Let me just say that, first of all, the question as to whether the future that we know will be digital will also be inclusive, I think it largely depends on us. It largely depends on all of you, on all of us. It largely depends on human choices. I think that we've been living for quite a long time under the wrong assumptions that digitalizations, information technology would automatically and almost magically solve discrimination and inequalities. And I think that we have realized that this proved wrong. And also we are seeing how much, in fact, the life that we live online is really a replication of the life that we live offline. And therefore, I think it's important that we understand that and that we continue to address element of exclusion and of discrimination, including between men and women, that happens in our real life. So that is very, very important. In terms of some of the gaps that we see, I mean, some of the speakers earlier in the morning have already mentioned to those. Clearly, we have a number of, even if we look at the global perspective, the director of the ITU this morning was mentioning about 5.4 billion people being connected online. Well, you may know that those 5.4 do not translate it into equal between men and women, because it roughly translates into 2.5 women being connected versus almost 3 billion men being connected. So we already have sort of an issue when it comes to connectivity, but we have an issue when it comes to opportunities for education. We have an issue when it comes to, let's say, equal representation on the technology industry. Nowadays, globally, around 30%, women account for around 30% of jobs in the industry, less than 20% in management positions, and a astonishing 3% when it comes to CEO positions in the technology industry. So clearly, there's a lot to do when it comes to promoting access to education and jobs, and perhaps we can discuss this a little bit later.
For sure, thank you. But policy is one side of the story. Let's take this from policy into real-life experiences. What do you think are, the real barriers that prevent girls from entering or staying in career tech? Maybe some thoughts from academia as a professor?
Of course. I have had the pleasure and probably the chance to join academia, initially industry, and when I got actually the best of that world, I entered academia after a decade, and I've had the chance to actually bring my perspective in the auditorium, and hopefully and very, very humbly, I may say it, inspire girls that I had the chance to meet in these classes. Nevertheless, the thing is that what I have concluded throughout the last 20 years of my work experience, both in industry and academia, is that we don't have a girls in tech problem in Albania, which is quite different as opposed to the US or other developed countries. We always used to have a, let's say, critical mass of girls and women present in natural sciences, in engineering, in informatics, computer science. And that happens to be the case also in the early days of the career when they are just graduated and they enter the job market. So I have plenty of friends of mine who did great during the studies, and the same story repeats itself when I have now to teach girls in bachelor's or in graduate studies. But the thing is that we have a systemic problem. We have a problem that is related mainly to the system itself, to the climate itself, and to how women actually are invited in their tech roles, and how they are actually blended with the existing culture, where a woman versus a man is often required actually to overachieve, to be an overachiever, actually to validate itself and to prove that it's consistently overachieving a male in any sort of task or position. So it's also a matter of fewer role models, and actually it's a matter of fewer sponsors, unequal expectations when you go the higher you go, and the harder is this sort of pressure. And it's often a case of missing women as they actually move upper in the hierarchy. So first decade is often welcoming, and then as soon as you mature and you're asking for an executive role, then you see that the culture that already exists, or probably the system, the whole pipeline, is not really accommodating and retaining these ladies.
Thank you so much.
About the barriers. Okay, I'm not so much involved in the industry. My son is, in fact, and I would like to see here, okay, the conference is for girls, but there are 90% female here in this, women and girls in this place. But I would like to see more young men like my son here to be and to listen about the different perspectives, because this is very important, because the main barrier that is not allowing women to go further is culture. This means that girls often enter tech spaces and find themselves not reflected, not in leadership, not in curricula, not in product being built. The second is the confidence gap. And girls often are not encouraged, are not mentored, are not sponsored, and like their male peers are. And the third one is safety. There are many toxic workplaces and cultural harassment where girls need to work, and this need to be stopped and changed immediately. That's why we need more men and boys in the aura when we talk about these kind of things. And of course, the main barrier is care responsibilities that women has with bear in their shoulders, and they need to do that. This need to be shared as soon as possible, and that's why we need to do more in these aspects to, let's say, overcome these barriers for women to shine into technology.
Thank you for all what you shared. These barriers become even more critical when we talk about the future of technology themselves. As it evolves, the stakes are getting higher, especially in areas like cybersecurity and emerging tech. Why is it critical, not optional, to have more women in these fields? What do you think, Ms. Malodi?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this panel. It is a pleasure to be with other ICT girls and women since my all long journey as professional life is in this sector in Albania and of course in cooperation in international and regional level. You are asking me why it is critical and important to have more girls and women speaking for cybersecurity and emerging technology, which are some key words in our daily life today. And it is linked closely with the fact that technology, ICT technology, is present everywhere. It is a massive usage of a smart technology from everybody, even from young generation, even from elder people, women or men, girls or boys. And of course that digital transformation is going wider and wider, and digital transformation as a process, as an ecosystem, is touching every aspect of our life, economic development, social aspects, in our business life, in our family life, you use technology. And going back to my early starting point in ICT sector, even when I was a student, I remembered that we are only few girls when we as university studying for electronic engineering, only 7 girls in my generation in the classroom, which is 1/3 compared with total number of the students. But when I go to teach in university in 2006 or 7, and I enter in the auditor and I saw a class with all girls, I was really pleased and happy, since I thought that something has changed and the technology is more allowed or is accepted from girls too, that informatic or digital technology is not only for boys, it is not only for men. When I started as switching engineer in early 90s, I saw only men in the company when I started the job. But going day by day in my professional life, my impression is that all of us are living also with a rapid change of technology. And normally I use that our generation is in a specific environment, since we are the generation, we are living with this rapid technology change, which is linked with fourth industrial revolution. It not happens in other kind of other technologies, but it is especially and in particular with digital and ICT sector. Going back, what is or how it is so critical to include or to have more women and girls, since women and girls are active parts of any nodes in digital transformation process, in any nodes of digital transformation ecosystem, and saying this in different perspective. They have a contribution for social life, for economic, to increase younger generation, to growth children. And they contribute even with their high skills today, even with their higher accountability and responsibility for the future, making our future more comfort, more confident through building digital in more resilience and trusted and reliable, including also using in ethical way new emerging technology as IE. And I would like to mention some very good initiatives or programs in global or regional or even in the country. IE for Good is an initiative from ITU since 2017, and it is open for contribution from everybody. And I would like to share and invite you to join that kind of initiative. I saw that recently EU has launched a new program to increase the leadership role of women in ICT public sector. We are a lot now in contributing in public sector. Me, as Director of Policies for Telecommunication, contributing in EU integration process in digital, and we are working hard to progress, including to translate in Albanian EU standards in digital area, bringing digital rights and digital principles in any kind of activity linked with digital technology, but not only. And we have in opening session today our Deputy Prime Minister as a woman. We have Deputy Minister in a leadership role for integration process, other ladies, and this beautiful young girl to moderating so successfully opening and this panel. And going back to your opening question, how I look the future of ICT girls, I would like to say that my view is that girls and women in a very active participation and contribution and any process of digital transformation, giving us more value added and providing more safe, reliable, and sustainable future developments. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind words. Thank you so much for your kind words, Ms. Maloli. I'm not a moderator, but I never do the mistake to refuse to be Lydia, to refuse myself. So I will accept every and any kind of challenge within my professional area. But getting a little bit out of the agenda, you mentioned back in time you had a class full of girls. I'm pretty sure it was a class as beautiful as this room with full of these amazing girls here.
For sure. For sure, and it has been a very good impression from my memory, and I hope to have more and more girls in a field of ICT, in all STEM science, but especially in this digital transformation process, which is everywhere now, and you have a lot to give as a contribution for the future.
Thank you. And let's make it a little bit more personal now. So I would like to listen from you, Ms. Kanduli. What motivated you to pursue a path in ICT, and what nearly stopped you?
Okay, that's a very nice question. I'm asked consistently about that, and I wouldn't find a better answer than just curiosity. And curiosity was what has driven my choices and literally pulled me into the ICT space early on. And I don't regret that, although I recall that I had, and I used to have different hobbies and interests. Medicine was one of those careers that most of our parents back in the days were projecting for most of us. Teachers literally actually wanted me to pursue a career in literature as well, but yeah, it was mostly because of my curiosity, and curiosity, I think it's to this day and should be the North Star for every girl out there, whether it's a career in technology, in medicine, in architecture, or any sort of choice. Because curiosity is the driver that will keep up that light into you and will allow you to actually challenge yourself consistently and to enter new careers, to change and adapt very resiliently. And these are actually those characteristics that a young lady should actually not only have but nurture, especially in these days when change is the only constant, and by being open to changes, by taking over opportunities, and by constantly being curious and working towards new skills, new challenges, you would be also celebrated, you would be accepted much more easily. And that sort of shift that is very, very crucial into being successful will happen very naturally. So if I said just earlier that for most of us, it used to be an extra work, that effort of entering a room and proving that you're extra prepared, extra polished, extra performant, at the cost of being perceived equally, let's say, prepared versus a man or someone else. That should not happen. Your energy should be repurposed, and it should be going into that direction, into investing in developing yourself, adding more skill sets, and therefore naturally becoming a leader, becoming the one in the room, becoming the one that actually drives the change, creates the change, and models the tables rather than just sitting there and keeping us a place. And if I can go back to that second part of the question, versus curiosity and persistence, what possibly might have indulged me into rethinking my role in academia or industry as a technologist might have been actually that silent pressure. Depending on where you're landing, whether it's an executive role or just academia, you will always have that sort of silent pressure that you're not good enough, or that you'll have to prove that you're good enough to deserve whatever is on your plate. So that is probably a feeling I'm not very proud of, but time to time it reappears, it resurfaces. And I want you or anyone that is young and energetic and it's joining that sort of space to get rid of that feeling and to repurpose that energy so that the focus is only on what's next and what better version of myself can I be.
Thank you. And what about you, young ladies? Why would you choose an education or a career in ICT? Has anyone any idea? They are all thinking that we are here today to get motivated and later to decide, I guess, right? Okay, so let's move to another question. Miss Archimandriti and Mr. Ribota, as you are close to societies, are we doing enough today as institutions, industry, and society? Or are we still treating inclusion as something of a nice to have?
Okay, honestly, no, we are not doing enough. And an answer question you did to the young girls, although that maybe the shy in such places is someone should have raised the hand and hands and stand up and says loudly why they choose ICT and what is their, let's say, how they see themselves in the future, in the 5 years from now. So we are not doing enough, and this is because, for example, in numbers, women are underrepresented in tech leadership, in AI development, in future funding, in funding, and in other aspects that are related to the structural barriers that I mentioned some, but there are more than the 4 I mentioned. And for example, in Albania and also in many countries in the Western Balkans, we have programs that exist just to check the box. We have small hackathons, for example, one-day workshops short-term projects and that's it. We don't have sustainable programs that help girls that have started this industry to grow further and to be to boost themselves and to be part of this industry properly. And everything that we are doing right now are not transformation, are just, as I said, to tick the box. And for example, the girls that are attending a weekend coding camp feels inspired, goes home, and then what? Nothing happened. So it's very important for us as a society to do more and to do sustainable and transformative projects.
If I can add very quickly. It's very nice that Mirela actually got this angle, because my perception, both at academia and in other spaces beyond the classroom, I have the perception that we are just getting better at celebrating women or girls in ICT, but we are lacking that extra step that goes and measures it, quantifies it, and qualifies and validates whether that effort, that energy, that opportunity is really materialized and it's becoming sustainable and consistent. So that's also a call for you to actually, on the other hand of that reality, to grasp the opportunities and not let it end there, but make it an ongoing, pass it over to another, let's say, sibling, to another friend, to another peer, so that things really get consistent and have a sort of alignment and longer life cycle.
Okay, on your question on whether we're doing enough, I would say, I guess it depends. I would say yes and no. And just to go back to what other panelists said, I think one of the areas where we need to kind of make more efforts is that globally, as well as in Albania, there are a lot of very promising initiatives and that are taking place. Clearly, those need to become more structured, but also I think that providing visibility to those sort of initiatives, as well as to those models, role models of women, young women and girls that are actually looking at sort of ICT as one of the areas where they want to sort of fulfill their dreams and aspirations, is something that can speak to so many other girls. So I think the visibility, the communication of the promising practices is key. About your question of whether inclusion, we can look at inclusion as a nice to have, clearly no. I mean, inclusion, sort of equal and inclusive representation, as well as full empowerment of women and girls is a must. And it is also, by the way, a legal requirement within the policy and legal framework of Albania. Clearly, we have challenges when it comes to kind of make this a reality and mainstream all of this inclusion and representation and participation aspects into specific sectors. This is a clear challenge. We call this gender mainstreaming, i.e. the ability of sort of integrate the perspectives and the different, let's say, perceptions, aspirations, expectations and concerns that women and men have across sectors. And ICT clearly is one of the sectors where women and men come from this different perspective, different aspirations. So we need to be able to do a better job when it comes to data, to have the data that we need to analyze our policies. We need to be able to be deliberate about asking ourselves whether the policies on ICT, on artificial intelligence, are addressing existing patterns of groups of populations being left behind or not having the same opportunities. We need to be able to, what are the mechanisms, what are the changes that we want to sort of achieve over time. So that's, I think, one important step. Clearly, the other prerequisite for this to happen, and here I want to also make a pitch for one of the parallel sessions that you will have later that the UN team is organizing, is that we also need to do a lot more on this part. Clearly, we're not doing enough, is when it comes to the to the really legal and moral imperative to make sure that all of you in this room and around the country, when you are online, you can be online in a safe way. Clearly, the whole issue of technology-facilitated violence is a huge problem. Albania is not an isolated case. We, as UN Women, have conducted a study a few years ago of Albania and other countries where we have seen that the incidence of technology-facilitated violence on women, especially on young women, is very, very concerning. We're talking almost about 1 in 2 having experienced some form of technology-facilitated violence. So I think that that's clearly a huge priority. The good news, as a first step, is that the new law that the country has passed on domestic violence and violence against women clearly and for the first time specifically recognizes online violence against women as one form of violence and requests institutions and everybody in society to act on this to make sure that online space can be a safe space for everybody. These are some of the things that will be discussed in the parallel session, together also with some of the mental impact of living online. I come from a generation where I saw a computer for the first time when I was 23 years old and I was writing my thesis. So clearly I come from a completely different world than you do, but you were born with the devices, and the devices are a part of you that is inseparable from you, and I think there are some mental health implications in terms of also living your life online that is important that you are aware of, and these are some of the things that also will be addressed during this session. So please do join.
Thank you, Mr. Ribota. You see, that's why I said I have distinguished panelists, because they bring into this panel national and international perspectives. But Ms. Malodi, as a representative of government, let's say through the Ministry of Infrastructure and Energy, I am particularly interested in hearing who holds the greatest responsibility for driving change, governments, companies, or individuals?
This is interesting question. And I will back to an answer years ago who somebody in a big conference addressing who is the owner of internet. May anybody tell me who is the owner of internet? We are all owners of internet, nobody alone, since it is based on the contribution of all actors, industry itself, providers of networks, providers of services, users itself who contribute with content, with applications. And it is going more and more actors contributing in the digital ecosystem. So it is difficult to say who is more important. Industry with technology change who push some kind of new regulations. If we speak, for example, new regulations speaking for IE or digital new area or new developments, legislation is some time back since technology is in advance. And if we speak for regulation, it's follow what is in technology. If we speak for civil society, they need to increase their contribution when we speak for future development, how to have this safe and reliable environment in digital area. But it is, in some time, you have a driver, and if you see from the perspective of technology driver, it is industry itself. They are pushing. If you are speaking for how to advance in digitalizing of public service, in our case, the government has an important role to give the model. We need to digitalize business and to have more digitalization, automatization in industry, but it depends country by country. My view is that all are contributors, all need to be coordinated and harmonized, all voices to be heard and to have their place and their important role in shaping the future, and not only for digital, for all developments in the future world. Government has its own role, regulatory bodies has their own role, important one, industry, users, social organizations, and international organizations, since nowadays we are speaking again how to build resilience infrastructure, digital infrastructure, back the attention to cable subsea resilience, which is so important for internet communication and for traffic of data communication. We are speaking how to use in ethical way AI. It is a powerful instrument if we use it in a good way. This is my view on that. Each actor has its own critical and very important role, and all together we need to contribute and collaborate. Thank you.
Exactly. As the saying says, together we can achieve more. But is the problem really access, or is it confidence and perception?
Okay, I agree with Ms. Maloli. Do you like to speak again? Okay, with what she said, it's true. All three groups are very important, and but they don't have the equal, let's say, share in this process. Of course, the lead should be the government, because they lead with the policy, they lead with funding, they lead with creating possibilities. For example, here is TUMO Center in this place, in this building, but TUMO is existing only in Tirana, not in other cities. And maybe we are losing talents that are there somewhere and no one's know, because we do not give incentives. So it's very important that political will and the government is the most important, let's say, pillar that needs for sure to jump in and build up the systems in order that everyone has the same possibility everywhere. And of course, the other actors and individuals are important, but they are, let's say, the least who has the desire and the possibility to study, but then after what is happening. This is very important. This is my opinion.
That's something not to forget academia, since it was not mentioned when I put the stakeholders, not to forget the academia and their important role in this process. And I fully agree what you suggest, that for some topics, but my speech was related with all developments in technology and not in the perspective what you mentioned, but I fully agree what you suggest, that government need to have their role in promoting and supporting the inclusive and all kind of supports for these activities and for young generation and all participation.
Thank you. And as you mentioned academia, Professor, one concrete piece of advice for a girl who wants to enter ICT.
Oh, that's a question that has been forever there, and it's a valid question. But nowadays, this is a question everyone asks whenever they have a kid, they have a nephew, they have someone in the family that is going to join university, and they ask this question boldly: what should my son or my daughter study? But since today the topic is related strictly to girls, and we want the change to come also from both sides, I'll put it this way. Looking at the digital transformation, AI, but also many other emerging technologies, the one and only skill that would actually position everyone, every young peer out there in a very, very strong position is critical thinking. So it's the ability not only to use technology, which is something that in a way or in another, will be fully normalized as technologies get better. But it's the ability to actually use technology and pose better questions, ask better questions regarding personal life, regarding society, regarding many other fields. Being able actually to use technology at your own interest in a way that empowers people, girls specifically in this case, so that we can really pose deep questions, can figure out what is potential bias, can check reality better, and so on and so forth. So critical thinking is exactly where we should focus now on. And by means of, let's say, mentoring by academia, by studies, by side projects, any form that allows you to grow actually in many dimensions, you would allow yourself to be always relevant and play a crucial role, whether it's in school, industry, or job market.
Thank you so much. Before we close, the last thing. Very, very brief to all of you. If we meet again in 5 years from now, what would need to change for you to say, yes, the digital future is truly inclusive?
$1 billion question.
I would say another bigger room with even more girls participating in this kind of events, right?
Absolutely.
Maybe in a reverse order, that you are here and we are there.
Definitely, it would be the greatest. So, what this conversation makes clear is simple. Nothing we discuss today is automatic. Inclusion is a choice, but it is also a shared responsibility. We are not there yet, let's say 100%, but we are making meaningful progress, and that progress must continue with intention and accountability. Thank you again to our panelists for a very real and honest conversation. So what we shared in this panel doesn't really feel like the end of something, right? It feels more like a starting point, because this is where the conversation becomes more personal, more direct, more real. And instead of keeping it here on one stage, we are going to break it into smaller spaces where you can ask more and take this further. We now have 4 parallel sessions, each opening a different angle of this discussion floor. Careers and Leadership in AI and Cybersecurity, hosted by the National Cybersecurity Authority here in this room, moderated by my colleague, Ms. Clarenta Pashai. Smart Transition into AI, hosted by the National Agency for Information Society in the Orange Cube, panel moderated by Ms. Romina Costani. My colleague, Eni, will guide you to the Orange Cube. Gender Equality in the Age of AI, hosted by UN Albania in the Blue Cube, moderated by Mr. Armando Bode. My colleague, Krista, will guide you there. And last but not least, an inclusive AI, designing technology that works for everyone, hosted by the British Council in the Vodafone Cube. NG, my colleague NG, you can look at the badges. We'll guide you there to the Vodafone Cube. Find the space that pulls you in and step into it. Our team will be available, as I said, to guide you to each location. After, yes, boss, look at the badges of my colleague, please. I want to mention that after the parallel sessions, we have the lunch break, and guess what? After the lunch break, we have a very, very interesting part. We are going from national to global celebration of International Girls in ICT Day. Thank you. Stay with us.